What is a ratio? Well, a ratio is a way to compare two or more quantities. For example, let's take a look at this group of coins. Part of this group of coins is made up of pennies. The other part of this group of coins is made up of nickels. Together, these two parts make up the total. Now that we've identified all the parts that make up our group of coins, we can compare these different quantities. And to do that, we're going to use a ratio. So let's begin by looking at some part-to-part ratios. Let's look at pennies to nickels. Well, we can see that there are 2 pennies to 3 nickels. So the ratio is 2 to 3. Now we can write that 3 different ways. The first way is to actually use the word 2. 2 to 3. The second way is to replace the word 2 with a colon so that the ratio looks like this. And the third way is to use a fraction bar to represent the ratio. And that would look like this. We can also look at the ratio of nickels to pennies. Our ratio this time will be 3 to 2. And again, we can write it using the word 2 or replacing the word with the colon like this, or we can write it with a fraction bar. So there are 2 different part-to-part ratios. We can compare pennies to nickels or nickels to pennies. Now let's look at part-to-total ratios. We can compare the quantity of pennies to the quantity of coins we have altogether. So that ratio would be pennies to total coins. The total number of coins is 5, so the ratio would be 2 to 5. And again, we can write that 3 different ways. We can also compare the quantity of nickels to the total number of coins. So the ratio of nickels to total coins would be 3 to 5. And we can write that again using the word 2, replacing the word 2 with a colon, or by using the fraction bar. When a ratio is written with a fraction bar, it's important to understand the difference between part-to-part ratios and part-to-total ratios. Now remember, fractions are written with a numerator and a denominator. The numerator represents a part. The denominator represents the total. And our part-to-total ratios mean exactly that. The numerator is a part, and the denominator represents the total. So we can say that the pennies are 2/5 of the total number of coins. And we can say that the nickels are 3/5 of the total number of coins. But in our part-to-part ratios, the numerator represents a part, and the denominator also represents a part. So we can't say that pennies are 2/3 of the total coins, and we certainly can't say nickels are 3/2 of the total number of coins. What we can say is that pennies are 2/3 of the number of nickels. And we can say that the number of nickels is 3/2 the number of pennies. So when you're working with part-to-part ratios in fraction form, it's important that you understand exactly what that fraction means.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our lesson, and you have one example or practice problem for you to complete that is going to focus on writing ratios. There are 2 parts to this problem, so you should have 2 answers when you come to class tomorrow. One answer for what you see in orange, and one answer for what you see in the bluish color. Make sure you read the whole problem, put the answer on your paper, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day.